Average sales managers train their salespeople on products. Above average sales managers will help their people develop selling skills. Really great sales managers will teach their salespeople about business and financial acumen. But what kind of sales manager trains their people on curiosity? This is Sales Untraining, a very different kind of sales podcast. 3 out of 4 salespeople are failing. They're falling short of their revenue. Why doesn't sales training work? That's what this sales podcast is about. It's your weekly sales strategy guide designed to rewire your sales brain. Hey, welcome to Sales Untraining. It is your weekly sales strategy guide designed to completely rewire your sales brain. We're talking about sales training, and by the way, why it doesn't work. It kind of rankles some people. Some people don't like that I say sales training don't work. But listen, the reason I say it doesn't work is because the results aren't there. It's not because people don't know what they're doing, but the numbers don't bear it out. The results tell us that very few people consistently hit their quotas, that they perform at a level far above average. It's just very uncommon. So we want to address some of the systemic issues that keep companies from being as effective as they can be. Dave Brock joins us. He's the CEO of Partners in Excellence for, I don't know, since like dirt, way back. And he has got a phenomenal book out. And it's interesting. If you've been a sales manager, you'll know why. It's called the Sales Manager Survival Guide. And Dave, it was a wonderful book, and I was happy to write a review of it because it's that good. But welcome to Sales Untraining. Really great to have you on board.
Oh, thanks, Kelly. It's I love the theme of your podcast because unfortunately it's so important. Sales training would be important, but getting rid of some of our preconceived notions is even more important.
Well, we were talking about it before we started the podcast, and you and I have been around a while. And one of the things we're trying to do is help younger generation avoid a lot of the missteps that we took, a lot of the hurdles that we had to learn to get over, trying to make it a little easier. But sadly, it doesn't seem like people are gravitating towards the solutions that are already out there. And I really got interested. I'm as you know, a voracious reader of your blog. And if you don't know Dave Brock, you got to go find him. You've got to subscribe to his blog because it's fantastic if you really care about being a better sales manager in particular. But I want to read you something that he wrote, and he and I are going to talk about. It says this: we focus our skills development on product training and selling skills. Yet the ability to talk to our customers about their businesses is really what customers care about. Very few enablement organizations offer strong business or financial acumen skills. We know our customers struggle with complexity, critical thinking, aligning differences, even thinking about their businesses differently. Yet, we don't develop salespeople's capabilities in curiosity, critical thinking, problem solving, collaborative conversations. As we become less helpful to our customers, they push off or eliminate engaging sellers until the very end of their process, where we offer the least differentiated value. I mean, Dave, that just jumped all over me because one of the episodes we've already been through is that the average company brings in salespeople, spends a day, a week, a month in product training, hands them a list of customers and says, go sell. But what you're saying is, we're really missing the boat. Won't you dive in a little bit? Why are things like a business and financial acumen even important to a salesperson?
Well, so let me back up a little bit and let's look at some of the data, what our customers are telling us that says we aren't connecting with them. So what you have is 83% of customers today, and it's growing, want a rep-free buying experience. They don't want to talk to a salesperson. And so when you talk to them and say, what is that? I can get all the information a salesperson can give me online. All they do is come and pitch my products. They don't understand my business. They don't care about what I care about. So why should I waste my time talking to them? And also, so one is people are preferring a rep-free buying experience. Two is when they're spending time with sellers, they're spending less and less time with sellers because they don't want to be talking to us. In total, customers are spending 17% of their time during their buying process with sellers, and they're getting information other places. And that's not 17% of their time with us. That's 17% of the time with every seller that they're considering.
Right.
So our customers are telling us loud and clear, you aren't helpful. You aren't talking to me about the things that I care about. So I just won't deal with you. And we, for some reason, we aren't listening. You know, as my blog post said, is what we train people is our products and how to sell, but we don't train them in how to have conversations that customers care about. And it's
right.
about them. It's about their business.
Especially in the SaaS space, Dave. I mean, hey, we need to get a demo. We get them to demo stage, and conversion rates, win rates are awful. When you get the sequence wrong and you start off with a demo, people aren't interested.
I'm stunned these days when I read the data. A lot of research reports coming out. Typical win rates are 15 to 20%. And wow. I somewhat jokingly say, I used to fire people when their win rates went below 30%.
Right.
And we have huge organizations accepting 15 to 20% as a win rate as you know, a law of physics.
Right, right.
I was doing a project with a very, very large customer about a year ago, and they were saying, are we doing the things that allow us to hit our growth targets for the next 3-5 years? They've been growing by multi-billion-dollar company, growing by double digits. And they said, we just want to make sure we can continue that growth rate. And I did some analysis. I went to them and I said, no problem, slam dunk. You're going to achieve your growth goals and so on and so forth. And I said, but I'm sure glad I'm not a shareholder. And this was to the CEO, the CFO, and the executive team. And they looked to me and said, how can you say this? And I said, you're underperforming your potential. And in their case, their win rate was 17%.
Wow.
And I said, imagine if you got your win rates up to 30% or 40% or 50%. Imagine the revenue you could produce. You're already competing for those deals. You just aren't winning them. So what if you found out how to win more of those deals? You could double your revenue. And, you know, they had never seen that before, and they were, I think, and I see this too often, when we achieve our growth goals, we get blinded and think we're successful, but we don't realize that we can be doing so much more.
Oh, absolutely right. So you've got a sales team, let's call it a dozen salespeople, Dave, and they achieve 100% of their objective for the year. But when you look deeper in the numbers, 5, maybe 6 people got us to the finish line, and I've got 4 or 5 underperformers. But the sales manager gets to, you know, open up and say, "Look at me, we hit our numbers, right?" I mean,
we hit our numbers, yeah.
Look how much potential you left on the table. It's really crazy.
Exactly
Dave, he's Dave Brock. He's the CEO of Partners in Excellence. Again, I want to remind you, you need to read what he's writing if you want to be a superior sales manager. This man's level of thinking is way higher than most, and it's going to take you to places you won't go. And the whole concept, Dave, of win rates is a really important one, because it's like everything else in sales. It's whatever everybody else is doing is what the acceptable level is. But the first person that comes along and says there's something intuitively, intrinsically wrong with what we're doing, there is enormous opportunities out there for an organization that will begin to look at what they do differently. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah. And you know, it's so easy, and it's so easy to stand out. So let's go. We started this conversation about we don't talk to customers about what they care about. We talk to them about what we care about, which is our products, and we use the best selling skills that we've been trained to do to just continue to pitch our products. You know, here are the features, functions, feeds, and speeds. Let's do a demo. Do you want to buy? And if you buy by the end of the month, I'll give you a discount. And that's that's the formula.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And 83% of customers saying, don't like that, doesn't compete for me, I'm going to do something else. So what do you do? What you do is you talk to the customers about what they care about. It's their business. It's their problems. Customers don't do this stuff every day, so they're struggling. We know 60% of buying processes end in no decision made, and it's not because they can't choose a product. They just get scared to death. As Matt Dixon and Ted McKenna say, is their biggest thing is FOMO, fear of messing up. I happen to call it FOFU, which is a fear of something else.
Yeah, right.
But and so that's the thing that stops them, and it's all about their business. Are they doing the right thing for the business? Are they doing the right thing for the customers? So we've been doing some programs a number of years. We call it business-focused selling. And we tell the salespeople, go in and talk to the customer about their business. Don't mention your product, even if they ask you about it. And we say, talk to them. What's the problem you're trying to solve? Why are you trying to solve it? How important is it? Who should be involved? What information do you need to be getting? Help them think about that buying process. Help them think about what they're trying to achieve and have them get real clarity in their mind. And this is the stuff they struggle with every day. This is what's causing them to look at changing and things like that. And they're struggling with getting through that. Help them in that. At some point, they turn to you and say, how can you help?
Yeah, exactly.
And then the magic happens. And what we've seen on this is some stunning results. One is, as you would expect, win rates skyrocket because you've built that trust and confidence. You've helped them really think through what they're trying to do. No decisions made plummet because you're building that confidence through the process, and they feel that they're doing the right thing. And the most counterintuitive thing is sales cycles are reduced by 30%.
Yeah. I think that's the big one, because so many people think they're locked into these long buy cycles, right? The selling cycle.
Yep.
And they don't understand that a big part of the problem with that long selling cycle is the salesperson. Sales managers, you and I are so much on the same page. Sales managers wilt when I tell them, listen, if we're supposed to go in and build a relationship and develop trust, why are you trying to sell on the first call? Why don't you go in and begin building that relationship?
Yep.
And they look at me like,
Yep.
no, we have to sell something. I'm like, that's why everybody hates salespeople right there.
And the thing is people just do what we've always done.
Right.
But, we've seen the Gartner charts from years and years ago, the spaghetti diagram of how the customer wanders all over the place. They go forward, they stop, they shift directions, they go backwards, they run all of it's their confusion in trying to sort through this that creates very, very long buying cycles. And we just keep following them on that aimless path.
Right.
If we do this buying focused approach, we help them map out the direction. We help them get real clarity. We help them manage this as a project where they get to the end results very efficiently. So when you start thinking about it, you're just making it simpler for them to buy and achieve their goals, and they get to do it in much less time, and they're going to do it with you. And it's just
absolutely.
It's so simple. And the people that do, we do this with all sorts of clients. The people that do this just outshine their competitors because their competitors are still in there pitching products.
That's it. It's 100% right. Hey, one last observation about financial acumen. My observation is there are going to be some sales managers are out there saying, well, good for us because we actually teach financial acumen. I mean, after all, our salespeople know our ROI percentages and they know efficiencies and throughput percentages and things like that. But what I often have to say is, listen, when you present it that way, all that is another feature of your product. It's not an actual connection to how your business works. Do you think that's accurate?
I think so. And I think, I think people don't understand, what does financial acumen mean from a customer point of view? How do they express these things and what do they do? An example, several years ago, a large client of mine asked me to help them on a particular deal. I think it was kind of one of these pissing on the ashes calls. They had done everything they could. They just couldn't make progress. And they said, we might as well turn Dave loose on it. He can't screw it up any more than we have. They were in a supermarket, and they were looking at, my client sold supply chain software stuff. And I looked at some of the data and so on. I said, can you get me a meeting with the CFO? And they said, okay. Met with the CFO. And after the introductions, I said, do you realize you're paying your suppliers $13 billion a year to put stuff in green dumpsters behind your store? And he looks at me and he says, how do you come up with that? And I said, well, I did an analysis of the grocery industry, and I learned that waste in your supply chain tends to be about 13% of revenue. You're a $100 billion company. And he said, oh, and he went up to the whiteboard and he says, you don't know some things I know, Dave. And we were going through some calculations. It turns out they're paying him $22 billion. And he turned around in 45 minutes. He said, how can you help us? Because nobody had talked to them about the business impact and put it in terms that was meaningful to the CFO, to the leaders of the organization. And just something as simple as saying, you have this problem and it's costing you this much. And what was even more interesting is I was wrong in my analysis, but it's provided the starting point for the conversation. So it's so simple when you start understanding what the customer cares about, when you have the data about what they care about, and you leverage that data in financial acumen to talk to them about their business problems.
That's great stuff. Hey, next, we're going to talk to Dave about collaborative conversations and maybe look at a couple of ideas of how you can teach your salespeople to do the same. Hey, thanks for making Sales Untraining your first listen of the week. And if you find something you like, if you hear something that's interesting, I hope you'll share it with somebody you know. You can find out more about me at bizlockerroom.com or email me, kelly@bizlockerroom.com. Now back to the show. The 4 most dangerous words in any leader's vocabulary: I don't have time. If you don't have time to coach, what are you doing? Now, a lot of you are saying, time out. I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm doing reports and CRM and budgets and, going to meetings and all that. Yes, that is a problem. If you can't carve out time to develop people, then you're not a leader. Welcome back to Sales Untraining, your weekly sales strategy guide designed to completely rewire your sales brain. I mean, somebody's got to do it, because what we're doing now just simply isn't working. I mean, we have successes along the way, but systemically, there's some big problems out there. By the way, if you like the podcast, love if you would subscribe it, like it, subscribe to it, and share it with people. Get it out there, and let's start a movement to start changing the way we actually develop salespeople. Dave, I have a problem with the word training, because I don't think we should train salespeople. I mean, that's not the object, really. We want them to learn. We want them to change behavior. We want them to develop new skills and habits. Am I just being picky, or you think there's something to that?
I think training is important. I think we train in the wrong skills, and I don't think we embed it in the organizations. I was talking to a client earlier today about a training program they want me to conduct. And they were trying to negotiate the price down, because I put in this follow-on thing. I put in kind of a 30, 60, 90 follow-up. I outlined managerial responsibilities and so on. They said, why don't we cut this out? We can reduce the price. And I said, you do that, you might as well not spend the money, because
right.
I can do great training, but unless it's reinforced and coached and people do it every single day, it won't stick. So I think we do a lot of training wrong. I think we train people in the wrong things. We try and give them all the answers. We try and give them the scripts. We try and say these words, do it in this way, and you'll be successful, and they're not. And this world is so complex that we can't train them in everything and to consider every alternative. So my biggest thing is train them in curiosity. people who are curious will figure it out. And also that they don't, if they're curious, how do I capture this customer's attention? How do I get them to talk to me? How do I get them to prefer me? And if they're curious and trying to figure out they'll figure out the answers to this question. Or, what do I need to know about the product to be able to convince the customer, and so on. So curiosity is such a core thing for sellers in complex B2B, because we can never teach them everything they need to know. So what I want to teach them is how to figure things out. So two critical skills, and we train people on this, is curiosity and critical thinking.
Yeah, and that in essence is what leads to those collaborative conversations, isn't it?
Well, and then that leads to the collaborative conversations, because if I'm curious, I'm not going to go in and pitch you my product. I'm going to go in and say, what's happening? Are you doing what you want to do? Have you recognized that there's some changes in the industry? How is it impacting you? We're about to go into a recession. What are you doing to deal with those things? And those genuinely curious questions help you engage the customer. You help the customer who may not be curious actually to become curious about the conversation you're having. So you tighten this collaboration, tighten this conversation, and all of a sudden it becomes less me talking, pitching to you, or me inundating you with questions that you have to answer. We start thinking together on this thing. And I think the root of that is curiosity, that has that natural tendency to drive people thinking. I have a nephew, 4 years old, drives me crazy. Drives me crazy because he comes to my place and he goes all over my office or into the garage and all my tools. Uncle Dave, what's this for? How do you do this? Can I try it? And all that. But you look at what kids do, and if salespeople did that with half the energy that kids do with their customers, imagine the conversations we'll have.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing is if you really want to signal to people that you know what you're doing and you do have critical thinking skills, the kinds of questions you ask are a pure tip-off. This guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
And that's the problem, is we train sellers to have questions with an agenda. Are you interested in this product? Oh, I can tell you about this product.
Right.
We don't train them to, what are your goals and challenges? Where do you feel threatened in your ability to achieve those goals? Because people don't know what to do with the answers for that.
Gosh, it just seems so easy, and yet people don't do it. So let's talk a little guidance, Dave. Let's get Uncle Dave out here and let him solve a problem for us. If you were taking over a sales team and you recognize this was a pretty pervasive problem in the team that you were taking over, what's the first thing you would do? How would you go about changing direction and changing that culture?
What I would do is one, as a leader, you have to start setting the example. You have, one of the greatest things is, as a leader, if I am curious about my people and the roadblocks impacting their performance, I start having different conversations with them. And it's driven by curiosity. We start having collaborative discussions about how they can improve performance. Guess what's going to happen? They start taking those conversations. They start having the same types of conversations with the customers. So in demonstrating the curiosity, the critical thinking, the collaborative conversations within our own organizations, we're setting an example that people will start copying and emulating in their discussions with each other and in their discussions with their customers. And then you start training them and you start giving them tools. And what we do in so many things is selling skills is passe. What are my needs identification questions? What are my closing questions? What are my objection handling techniques? That's all kind of yesterday. is
Right.
how do I have these conversations? How do I have these conversations? How do I learn enough about the customer beforehand to have those conversations? So we have I'd go in and get them to focus on the business. Nobody else, no other seller is going to go to the customer with that approach. So you all of a sudden set yourself aside and differentiate yourself, because the conversations you're having with customers are different than every other salesperson is having with those same customers. And also
absolutely.
train them in how to do those things. It's really easy. I'm helping teach a class at UTD. It's a prospecting class.
Right.
And the first exercise we're taking people through is we're assigning each one of the students, we want you to call these 10 people and interview them, and interview them about their job. What are you accountable for? How are you measured? What are the biggest challenges you and your organization have faced over the last 3 years? What do you see coming in the next 3 years? It's just informational, trying to learn about what the customer is about. The second half of the semester, they go prospect those customers, because now they know them. And they're selling them to invest in the UTD programs and so on and so forth. And now they're doing that from the context of being more knowledgeable about the customer and their needs. And they can, for instance, they can talk to a CRO and take the things they've learned from that CRO and apply the same principles to every other CRO that they have, because those will have the same things. We've been testing it this summer. I have this wonderful young lady, really talented, we're refining the process and we're testing it. And, I had her call a friend of mine who's the CRO of about a $5 billion company. And she says, "Dave, I can't talk to Pete. He's a big guy." I said, "Oh, he's easy." And she called me up and she said, "What a fantastic conversation. I learned so much that I didn't know before." Pete called me up and he says, "What a fantastic conversation. Nobody talks to me like that."
Wow. Man, that's such great stuff.
Yeah. But it's so simple. And what frustrates me is it's so simple, it produces results, but it's like pushing a rope up a very steep hill to get people to listen to that. Listen, we're supposed to send 10,000 emails and do, 100 dials a day and say, "Are you interested in buying my products?" I'm lazy. That's too much work for me to make the numbers.
Right.
The lazy salespeople person is going to go talk to the customer about what they want to talk about, and then show them how they could help them.
Absolutely right. Just incredible stuff. He's Dave Brock, and again, you need to follow this guy. Incredible wisdom. Hey, you got a choice. You could either, double your win rates, or you could keep doing what you're doing now, pushing that rope uphill. Dave, I really appreciate you being with us, man. Thank you so much for joining us on Sales on Trading.
Oh, thanks so much for the invitation. I really enjoyed the conversation.
All right, good stuff. Hey, it's Sales on Trading, your weekly sales strategy guide, designed to completely rewire your sales brain. Hope you'll like, subscribe, and share the podcast, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Sales on Training is a production of Business Locker Room and Pod About It Productions. Music and editing by Doug Branson. To get more Kelly, visit bizlockerroom.com.